Have you ever felt like your life was moving forward in every area except one? Maybe your finances have changed. Maybe your career has grown. Maybe you've learned lessons that transformed you. Yet when it comes to love, something has remained strangely silent. You prayed. You waited. You watched other people find their partners. You saw weddings, engagements, anniversaries, and happy announcements. And somewhere deep inside, a question began to grow. God, what about me? If that question has ever crossed your mind, then do not leave this message early, because what you are about to hear may change the way you see your future forever. God says there is someone connected to your destiny who is much closer than you realize. This is not a random person. This is not someone who appeared by accident. This is not a relationship built on temporary emotions. This is someone whose path has been moving toward yours for longer than you know. And according to God, the biggest danger right now is not that they don't exist. The biggest danger is that you become distracted, discouraged, or delayed before the moment arrives. Many people think God works according to human timing. But heaven does not operate on human calendars. God sees the beginning and the end at the same time. He knows every road, every decision, every conversation, every closed door, every unexpected detour. And what looks like delay to you often looks like preparation to Him. God says there were seasons when you were not ready. Not because you were bad. Not because you were unworthy. But because there were lessons you needed to learn. There were wounds that needed healing. There were habits that needed breaking. There were fears that needed confronting. And there were battles you needed to survive. If that person had entered your life years ago, the version of you back then may not have recognized their value. You might have overlooked them. You might have walked away. You might have chosen someone else. You might have sabotaged the blessing without realizing it. But God says something has changed. You are not the same person you once were. The storms have strengthened you. The disappointments have sharpened your wisdom. The tears have taught you discernment. And now you are standing closer to a new chapter than ever before. Listen carefully. There is something shocking that many people never understand. Sometimes God protects your future spouse from meeting you too early. Think about that. While you were praying for them, God was also protecting them. While you were waiting, they were waiting too. While you were wondering if anyone was coming, they were experiencing their own battles. They had heartbreaks. They faced disappointments. They fought silent struggles. They questioned God. They wondered if their future partner existed. And all this time, heaven was writing a story neither of you could fully see. God says there are connections that are born from emotion. And there are connections that are born from destiny. The difference is enormous. Emotion fades. Destiny remains. Emotion changes with circumstances. Destiny survives storms. Emotion depends on feelings. Destiny depends on purpose. The person God is preparing for you is not entering your life merely to make you happy. They are entering your life to help fulfill part of your purpose. That is why the timing matters. That is why the preparation matters. That is why God refuses to rush what heaven has designed. Now here is something that may surprise you. God says many people are looking for signs in the wrong places. They are searching every social media profile. They are analyzing every text message. They are chasing every possible romantic interest. Yet the answer they seek cannot be discovered through anxiety. It can only be discovered through trust. Because when God opens a door, you won't have to force it. When God aligns two destinies, constant confusion begins to disappear. When God moves, peace starts replacing fear. And when heaven confirms a relationship, clarity grows stronger over time. You need to hear this. The enemy wants you exhausted. The enemy wants you discouraged. The enemy wants you convinced that love will never arrive. Why? Because hopeless people stop expecting miracles. Hopeless people stop preparing. Hopeless people stop believing. And when belief dies, anticipation dies with it. But God says your story is not ending where you are today. There is more ahead. Much more. In fact, there may already be signs around you that something is shifting. Perhaps your desires have changed. Perhaps your priorities have changed. Perhaps old relationships no longer attract you. Perhaps you suddenly feel a strong desire for stability, peace, commitment, and purpose. These are not random feelings. Sometimes they are indicators that a new season is approaching. God often changes your heart before He changes your circumstances. He prepares the inside before revealing the outside. And that preparation is happening right now. Now imagine this. Somewhere, someone is also thinking about their future. Someone is wondering who they will marry. Someone is asking God for direction. Someone is hoping their waiting season ends. Someone is becoming the person they need to be. Someone is learning lessons they could only learn through experience. And they have no idea that their path is slowly moving toward yours. That realization alone should fill you with hope. Because God's plans are never limited by distance. He can bring people together from different cities, different backgrounds, different stories, different experiences. What seems impossible to humans is effortless for Him. God says do not underestimate divine timing. One conversation can change everything. One introduction can change everything. One encounter can change everything. One unexpected moment can change everything. The future often arrives disguised as an ordinary day. That is why you must remain ready. Not fearful. Not desperate. Ready. There is a huge difference. Desperate people chase. Ready people prepare. Desperate people force. Ready people trust. Desperate people panic. Ready people believe. God is calling you to readiness. Take care of yourself. Grow spiritually. Strengthen your character. Develop your purpose. Improve your mindset. Build your relationship with God. Because when the right opportunity appears, preparation will matter. And here is another powerful truth. The person meant for your future is not looking for perfection. They are looking for authenticity. Many people spend years pretending to be someone they are not. They wear masks. They create images. They perform roles. But genuine relationships are built on truth. God says stop believing you must become perfect before you are worthy of love. You are growing. You are learning. You are evolving. And that journey itself carries beauty. The right person will recognize that. The right person will value that. The right person will respect that. And the right person will not require you to become someone else. Now pay close attention to this next part. God says there are individuals listening to this message who have nearly given up. You smiled in public while carrying disappointment in private. You acted strong while feeling tired inside. You told yourself not to expect too much. You convinced yourself that maybe love simply wasn't meant for you. But God says that conclusion did not come from Him. He is not the author of hopelessness. He is not the author of despair. He is not the author of fear. His voice speaks hope. His voice speaks possibility. His voice speaks life. And today He is reminding you that your story is still being written. The chapter you are living in today is not the final chapter. Not even close. There are pages you have not read. Blessings you have not seen. Conversations you have not heard. Opportunities you have not imagined. And relationships you have not yet experienced. God says your future is larger than your current perspective. Much larger. One day you may look back at this waiting season and finally understand why certain doors closed. Why certain relationships ended. Why certain people walked away. Why certain plans failed. Because not every goodbye was a punishment. Some goodbyes were protection. Some closed doors were redirections. Some disappointments were hidden blessings. And some delays were acts of mercy. Imagine if every relationship you wanted had worked out. Imagine if every door had opened. Imagine if every desire had been granted immediately. Would you be where you are today? Would you have learned what you know now? Would you have become who you are today? Probably not. God sees what you cannot. That is why trust remains so important. Now I want you to hear this carefully. The person God is preparing for you may arrive when you least expect it. Not because God enjoys surprising you, but because unexpected moments reveal genuine hearts. When you stop obsessing. When you stop forcing. When you stop chasing. You create space for God to move. And that is often when extraordinary things begin happening. God says continue walking forward. Continue growing. Continue believing. Continue trusting. Do not let disappointment define your future. Do not let fear define your future. Do not let past failures define your future. Those chapters are behind you. The story is moving forward. And heaven is not finished writing. Somebody listening right now needed this reminder. Someone needed to remember that delays are not denials. Someone needed to remember that God's silence is not abandonment. Someone needed to remember that unanswered questions do not mean forgotten prayers. God hears. God knows. God remembers. And God is working even when you cannot see it. So lift your eyes. Lift your expectations. Lift your faith. Because according to God, the waiting season is teaching you things that will soon become valuable. The preparation season is creating strength that will soon become necessary. And the lessons of today are helping build the blessings of tomorrow. The future is not empty. The future is not hopeless. The future is not forgotten. There is purpose ahead. There is joy ahead. There is restoration ahead. And yes, there may very well be someone ahead whose path is moving toward yours right now. Do not be late by giving up. Do not be late by choosing fear. Do not be late by allowing disappointment to steal your hope. Remain faithful. Remain patient. Remain ready. Because God says the story is not over. In fact, it may be closer to beginning than you think. Before you move on, there is something even deeper God wants you to understand. Many people think the greatest miracle is finding the right person. But God says the greater miracle is becoming the right person. Because when two unprepared people meet, even a good relationship can struggle. Yet when two people have allowed God to shape their hearts, something extraordinary happens. They bring peace instead of chaos. Understanding instead of constant conflict. Commitment instead of confusion. Growth instead of destruction. And that is why heaven has been working behind the scenes in ways you cannot see. God says there are moments when you felt forgotten, but you were actually being positioned. There were nights when you thought nothing was happening, but spiritual preparation was taking place. There were seasons when doors closed unexpectedly, and you wondered why. You questioned. You doubted. You searched for answers. But now God says those closed doors were protecting your future. Some people were never meant to stay. Some conversations were never meant to continue. Some relationships were never meant to become permanent. Not because you lacked value. Not because you were rejected by heaven. But because your destiny required a different path. Listen carefully. One of the biggest mistakes people make is comparing their timeline to someone else's. You see someone getting married. Someone buying a home. Someone celebrating an engagement. Someone sharing pictures of a happy relationship. And suddenly you begin asking yourself difficult questions. Why not me? Why am I still waiting? What is wrong with my life? God says comparison is stealing your peace. You are comparing your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 20. You are comparing your behind-the-scenes struggles to their highlight reel. You are comparing a story still being written to a story already unfolding. And that comparison is creating unnecessary pain. God says your assignment is not to watch someone else's timeline. Your assignment is to walk faithfully through your own. Because what He has prepared for you does not require imitation. It requires trust. There is something shocking that many people never realize until years later. The person you are praying for may already be praying for qualities that God is building inside you right now. Think about that. Maybe they are praying for someone loyal. So God is teaching you faithfulness. Maybe they are praying for someone patient. So God is teaching you patience. Maybe they are praying for someone emotionally mature. So God is teaching you wisdom through difficult experiences. Maybe they are praying for someone strong. So God is allowing challenges that develop strength. What feels like hardship today may actually be preparation for tomorrow. Nothing is wasted in God's hands. Not your tears. Not your disappointments. Not your mistakes. Not even your waiting season. God can take every lesson and transform it into something meaningful. And that is exactly what He is doing. Now imagine the moment when everything begins to make sense. The moment you look back and realize why certain people disappeared. Why certain opportunities failed. Why certain plans changed. Why certain paths ended. You will see that what felt like loss was often divine guidance. You will understand that heaven was protecting you from things you could not yet see. And you will recognize that God's timing was more precise than you ever imagined. God says there are blessings coming into your future that cannot be rushed. A seed planted today does not become a tree tomorrow. Growth requires time. Preparation requires time. Maturity requires time. And some relationships require divine timing. That timing cannot be manipulated. It cannot be forced. It cannot be accelerated through worry. It unfolds exactly when it is supposed to unfold. So stop carrying pressure that was never yours to carry. Stop trying to control every detail. Stop demanding answers for every question. Trust the one who sees the entire picture. Trust the one who knows every road ahead. Trust the one who already stands in your future. Because God says He is not surprised by anything coming next. Not one conversation. Not one opportunity. Not one encounter. Not one blessing. He already knows. And He is already there. There is another message God wants someone listening to hear. You have been focusing so much on what is missing that you have forgotten what is present. You have been concentrating on what has not happened that you have overlooked what God is doing right now. Look around. You are still here. You survived battles that should have broken you. You overcame situations that once seemed impossible. You made it through nights you thought would never end. You carried burdens and somehow kept moving forward. That is not weakness. That is evidence of God's hand upon your life. And if He carried you through those seasons, He can certainly carry you into the next one. God says your future is not being built on luck. It is being built on purpose. Every lesson has purpose. Every season has purpose. Every delay has purpose. Even every disappointment contains purpose. Nothing is random. Nothing is accidental. Nothing is beyond God's awareness. And because of that, you can release your fear. You do not need to know every detail to trust Him. You only need to know who is leading you. Now hear this carefully. The enemy wants you to settle. He wants you to become so tired of waiting that you accept less than what God intends. He wants you to trade purpose for temporary comfort. He wants you to exchange peace for pressure. He wants you to choose quickly instead of choosing wisely. But God says do not settle. Do not rush. Do not lower your standards simply because the waiting season feels long. What God has for you is worth patience. What God has for you is worth preparation. What God has for you is worth trusting Him. Because a rushed decision can create years of regret. But divine timing can create years of blessing. That is why God keeps saying, "Do not be late." He is not speaking about physical time alone. He is speaking about spiritual readiness. Do not be late by abandoning hope. Do not be late by allowing bitterness into your heart. Do not be late by becoming cynical. Do not be late by convincing yourself that nothing good can happen anymore. Because the moment you stop expecting, you stop preparing. And preparation matters. God says there are people listening right now who are standing much closer to breakthrough than they realize. You cannot see it. You cannot measure it. You cannot calculate it. But heaven sees it. God sees the connections being arranged. The opportunities being positioned. The conversations approaching. The doors preparing to open. And while you may feel uncertain, heaven is not uncertain. While you may feel confused, heaven is not confused. While you may feel impatient, heaven is perfectly on schedule. That truth should bring you peace. Not because you know exactly what will happen, but because you know who is guiding your future. God says there is beauty in trusting Him before the answers arrive. There is faith in believing before the evidence appears. There is strength in continuing forward even when you cannot see the destination. And that is exactly what He is asking you to do. Keep moving. Keep growing. Keep believing. Keep becoming. Do not allow temporary discouragement to make permanent decisions. Do not allow one painful chapter to convince you the entire story is bad. One chapter never defines the whole book. And your story still has many pages left. Some of those pages will contain surprises. Some will contain blessings. Some will contain opportunities. And some may contain the very relationship you have been wondering about for so long. God says your responsibility is not to force the future. Your responsibility is to prepare for it. Prepare your heart. Prepare your mindset. Prepare your spirit. Prepare your life. Become the person God is calling you to become. And when the right moment arrives, you will not need to chase destiny. Destiny will meet you where God has positioned you. That is why this message matters. Because hope is returning. Expectation is returning. Faith is returning. And God says your waiting season is not empty. It is active. It is meaningful. It is productive. Even when it feels silent. So hold on. Trust a little longer. Believe a little longer. Pray a little longer. Because God is still writing. God is still working. God is still preparing. And according to Him, the chapter ahead may be far more beautiful than anything you have left behind. Do not be late. Your future is still unfolding. And heaven has not forgotten your name.